Hello and welcome to one of my longest videos on Spellbinders Clubkits of December 2024. I'm Angela Brennan and today I'm bringing you Spellbinders Clubkits and I'm starting off with the stencil of the month, and I go on to also do the stitching die of the month, small die of the month and large die of the month. I've bookmarked them so you can go straight to the club kit that you want to watch, or you can watch the whole video, which takes about an hour. Now I've decided to put all of the club kits together because it's already late in the day, late in the month rather, and I didn't get a chance to release the videos one by one. So I'm doing it all together and easing it by putting it some bookmarks so you can get to the club kits as you want, as I mentioned. Start off with the stencil of the month. This stencil, there's 5 stencils and it's pretty easy to use. You can just use these diamond shaped overlap it, and you can also use the hearts, but there's also one stencil with just full of hearts. So I show you how I use both of them. I start off by using the corner of my stamping platform, and I tend to use that to do my stenciling because I just find it easier. So there's so many different stenciling mats that you can use, but I find this easy, and having different size blending brushes helps as well. So with the smaller bits, I'm using a detail blending brush from Autonew, and for the initial bit I use a small blending brush. And for the final one here, the hearts, I decided to use a glacier paste. I like to include pastes, either glacier paste, embossing paste, when I do my stenciling, and usually it's the final stencil because it takes a little while for these pastes to dry. And also, once you use this paste, make sure you wash everything that touches this paste, because once it dries, it's hard. So once I use this paste, the palette knife as well as the stencil and any parts of the platform that's touched the paste, I make sure I wash it off immediately. And you can put all the unused paste back into the Nouveau container. And there you go. I'm just going to leave this aside. I usually tend to leave it about an hour so it dries properly, depending on how thick of a paste you've put. Now I'm going to put the stencil onto a colored card. I always start stenciling on white card, but sometimes doing some stenciling on colored card can give you different results. The same ink color will look different on a white cardstock as opposed to a light blue cardstock or a different colored cardstock. What I'm doing here is I'm doing double stenciling. I did the first layer of the stencil with a diamond stencil with ink, and then I layered up the stencil with the hearts, full of hearts, with some glimmer paste. I'm using the Moonstone. Moonstone is a glimmer paste that will take on the color that is on the card. So it only hits the open bit of the stencil beneath it, which is the diamonds that have already been inked with blue. So double stenciling is a technique I don't use very often, but when there is a stencil that is fuller, it's kind of easy to do it. And I always put a press and seal on the top of each of the Nouveau Glimmer paste containers because that keeps the paste moist, and if not, it'll get too hard. I leave that to dry for an hour before I put the next stencil, and I'm adding a different color here. Again, this green will look different on a white cardstock as opposed to looking slightly muted on this light blue cardstock. And I continue to put the other stencils, and I will also use a different glimmer paste for the hearts. So this is a turquoise topaz. I've got quite a few glimmer pastes, and I always make sure I use the press and seal on top of the container, and this keeps the paste moist. Once I didn't use it, and it does make the paste dry or harden quicker, so the life of the paste reduces. So again, I will make sure I wash all of this and leave it aside to dry, and then you get, I'm not too happy with this color combo, but I leave it because I like the texture that comes with glimmer paste. For the next card here, I've just used light pinks. I think pinks and grays go really well, and rather than use a paste, I'm doing double stenciling with just a darker layer of the pink. So you just see a pink on the light layer of the pink of the diamond shape, and just adding a darker layer of pink with the heart-shaped stencil. So I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to use a darker gray. So I use Silver Lake for the initial triangle, not triangle, the diamond shape, and then I'm using a grey denim with the heart shape, so it just shows a little bit more contrast. So you can do whatever you want really, but I like the idea of double stenciling. You get more out of your stencils when you do double stenciling. I really hope these stenciling techniques are something you would give it a go, because it's worth looking at the stencils in your stash. You don't have to just use what comes with the stencil of the month. You can do your double stenciling with any other stencil that you have in your stash. And here are a couple of different pinks and grays that I've used. I like the lighter shade of it because I think it looks nice and pastel-y. And here I'm going to use the stencil that's got full heart shapes on it, just one stencil, but I'm going to use rainbow colors. So I've got about 7 different distress ink colors, and this is my go-to colors when I want to do a rainbow gradation. And I just use the domed foam pads to do this and make sure my ink pads are nice and juicy. And I forgot to mention, when I do stenciling, I always use the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 300 series card because I find it really a good heavyweight cardstock, and it's nice and smooth, and it takes on the inks as well as the paste quite well. So that's a good cardstock to have when you're doing stenciling, especially with inks. So here I just use all 7 colors, and they blend quite easily because it's just a small sliver of the color to get all 7 colors onto the front of the card. And there you go. So I'm using light gray card for this, very light gray, because I just wanted it to be slightly off-white. And I'm going to use the same stencil here, but instead of ink, and I'm using 3 different Nouveau Glimmer paste. You've got the pink Navali, Moonstone, and turquoise topaz. Now, I just have to do them. Now, a lot of these, once the glimmer paste overlaps, you don't want to put it back into the container, because if not, you contaminate. So if you'll see later on when I use the moonstone in the middle, there's a little bit of contamination with the pink and the turquoise. I don't put it back. So you've got 3 different palette knives here that I use because I don't want to contaminate the color. And I just put the 3 colors, one at the top, one at the bottom, and then in the middle I use the moonstone. Moonstone is the white color that if it's on a white card, it'll take on the color of the card. If you put it on a blue card, it'll take on that color. So it looks different. So moonstone is a nice, versatile glimmer paste to have in your stash because it can be used and try and get different colors all the time. So here I'm just putting that in the middle to make it as an in-between color. So you got the moonstone that will overlap with a bit of the pink glimmer paste as well as the teal glimmer paste. I hope you'll give all these stencil techniques a try, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And when you do subscribe, remember to press that notification bell so you're alerted when new videos are uploaded. Now, once it's all dry, it's about assembling the cards, and I always like to stencil on a larger card from the card front that I'm going to use. So the card base I use here is an A6 card. So it's a common card size in the UK. It measures 14.8 centimeters by 10.5 centimeters. And once I've attached it to the card front, I just use a scissors and cut all the excess that hangs out from the card base. And then you've got a nice flush card that's covered with the stencil background. Here I'm using the Forever Yours, which is the clear stamp of the month from December 2024, and it comes with a coordinating die as well. I love to get stamp sets where there's lots of sentiments because it really makes it nice and easy to coordinate with rest of the club kits of the month, because all of the Spellbinders Club kits coordinate so well together. And what's the bonus here is these sentiments come with coordinating dies. So what I've done here is I have stamped the sentiment on the same light grey card that I've done the stenciling on, because I want to have a tone on tone, and I stamped it with Altenews Obsidian pigment ink, and I sprinkled some superfine clear embossing powder, and I'm melting the embossing powder with my dual powered heat embossing tool from Wow. And there you go. Because it's got its own coordinating die for these sentiments, I do die cut extra shapes of that sentiment because I like layering them, and I'm using a black cardstock to do the layering because I want that thickness to be seen. I want that black to be seen. It's nice for that sentiment to have some dimension, but not too thick that it can't go through a normal post. It doesn't have to go through as a small parcel. I layered the shapes of the sentiments to create the dimension with some liquid glue, and I think that's the best way to do it. And then I just place it onto the card front, and the sentiment here reads, "You're my heart's delight, love you endlessly." I like the fact that the sentiments have different emphasis by using different fonts as well. And as always, I use my trusted tea ruler to make sure the sentiment is placed nice and straight on the card front. With so many colors on the card front, stamping the sentiment on the same colored cardstock as the stenciling really reduces the drama and makes the sentiment pop beautifully. Now on the next card, I decided to give it a bit of a very thin border. So I put it on a black mat because I'm going to stamp the sentiment with black as well. So I like to do my mats with my double-sided tape rather than use liquid glue when I place it onto the card front. It's just a clean and neat way to do it. And this is a personal preference. I know some of you use liquid glue, but I don't know. I feel the liquid glue sometimes can warp the card front. And I've already stamped the sentiment on white cardstock with my black pigment ink, and I always like to sprinkle it with some clear embossing powder. I like the sentiment to shine, so I tend to sprinkle it with clear embossing powder so it's nice and shiny on the card front. Very simple card because the background is quite colorful with texture as well. For the next few cards, I decide to use the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the Month sentiments. So a couple of sentiments with coordinating die come with it, and I've already done my foiling and layering with the sentiment die that's come with it. And here are the cards that I've already put onto the card front. I gave it a very thin pink border, a little bit of a thin foam sheet to give it a dimension, and I'm going to place the foiled sentiment or the hot foil sentiment. Your friendship is everything to me. I like that friendship sentiment, and there you go. Very simple. And same with the next couple of cards. I've already done the mounting onto card fronts, and I do use some pink, light pink cardstock for the card base. Forever Yours that I've hot foiled with a teal hot foil to go with the teal that's on the card front. And the next one here, this is a gold hot foil. I think it's polished brass hot foil on black cardstock, and that's to go onto the card front here with the very thin matte border of black. So I think giving a thin border to some of these stencils, rectangles, it's really nice and pretty, and I like the classiness of the card. And here are all the cards that I've done or created using the stencil of the month with the sentiments from the clear stamp of the month as well as the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the month. I like using the different club kits together to create a card, and the sentiments really come in handy. The next is a small die of the month, which is the Blooming Hello. It's basically hello. It's got a nice big H, which is floral, and it's got a bit of curlicue and foliage as well. And then you've got the ELO, and obviously you die cut the L twice to make the word hello. And it's got extra flowers and leaves to add on to the H. You can put it separately as well, but I do start off by die cutting the H twice as well as the ELLO twice as well, because I want to double it up to give it a little bit of dimension, but also to make the card a little bit more sturdy, just to put it onto the card front directly. And this is a dark gray card base that I'm using because I want the colors to pop a bit. So I do use quite a few different colored backgrounds because I think sometimes we forget to use a dark cardstock. Dark cardstock can really make it pop quite well. So I'm just doubling up everything with some liquid glue, and then you can actually just put this just white, all of the white on its own without adding anything. It's pretty as well, but I do add the additional foliage that comes with the set to show you how it looks. And here I'm just dotting the liquid glue all over the decorative H before I double it up. I layer it up with another layer of the same colored cardstock. So it gives it a little bit more thickness and dimension. And I think it just adds to the card when you make it. I didn't want to put any dimensional tape or anything because I didn't want the card to be too thick. And here I've die cut all the dies that come with the small die of the month with various different colored cardstock, and I've done some in multiples as well, and I'm just showing you how I assemble the flowers or some of the individual flowers together. It's not difficult to do because it's all pretty self-explanatory. It's just a little bit fiddly with the tiny die cuts, and this is where using a picker tool. I've got a media picker tool from Crystal Katana. It comes in really, really handy. And then sometimes if the die cut is too small and you dot your liquid glue, it's good to smudge it onto a scrap piece of paper before you continue, so that you can have that you don't have the glue smudging everywhere. Albeit my liquid glue will dry clear, the one that I'm using, which is an art glitter liquid glue. I've got that linked in the description below. It does dry clear, but I still don't like it too messy. All the products I've used are listed in the description below, so do check it out. And here I'm just showing you how I'm assembling these flowers. You don't have to use the same color. You can use a different color to put those petals together, but I decide to put the same color because I just like the look of that, and I'm just trying to keep the color combo to reds and pinks against this dark gray background with a little bit of green for the foliage. And so you've got a lighter pink here, so you can put these pinks together, but I decide not to do that. Instead, I put the same colors together to create that flower. And here's another flower. It comes in 3 different die cuts, so I'm just showing you how I put that together using 2 different pinks, shades of pinks. Pretty easy to put together. I really hope you find these tutorials informative on how to assemble these die cuts to create the small die of the month. And now it's all about assembling the card. So I'm going to put the hello in first. Now you can use either a strip of tape. So you use masking tape to get that nice straight line. But I use a tea ruler. I think having a tea ruler in your craft stash to put all your sentiments straight or anything that you want straight really makes it really easy. So this is a staple in my crafting area, a small tea ruler. And this tea ruler is from my sweet petunia. I like having it handy because it's the right size for the card sizes that I do. So do check that out and have a think about getting a tea ruler for your craft area as well. It really comes in handy. So once I've attached the hello to the card front, I've got the H. So I will attach the H. Now the H can be quite messy. So after dotting all of it, I do smudge it onto a scrap piece of paper before I place it directly onto the card base, so it doesn't smudge too much. I'm just making sure it's nice and straight. And once I have that naked H, as I put it, on the card front, I can add all the layers of the die cuts, the colored die cuts onto it. It's easy enough to do. I start off by putting the green because you've got 8 green leaves that you can add there. So that's the easy one to see where to put. The flowers, it's a little bit up to you where you want to put it. There's a little bit dots there to show where you can put the smaller flowers. So it's kind of up to you really. It's nothing set in stone on where you need to put the flowers. So you just use your imagination. So this Spellbinders video club kit for December 2024 is coming out really late because I really got caught up in other things and never got around to getting the video out. Hence this long video with 4 club kits. I've already released 3 different videos on the December 2024 club kits, and I'll put that in the description below as well. But this one here, it's got another 4 club kits which I'm showing you all in one video because it's already the first of the month. In fact, you've got your January club kits coming out already, and I'll start getting on with those videos quickly because I want to use my club kits within the month going forward, and that's what I aim to do. So I do lots of Spellbinders club kits. Do check those out because I tend to do videos on all of them. In fact, I tend to do a card that uses all of the club kits in one project. I never got around to doing it for December 2024, but I hope to continue doing it in January 2025 as well. So do click the subscribe button so you get to, and the notification bell so you get to be notified when new videos are uploaded, especially all of my Spellbinders club kits. I do some of regular releases as well that they have on a monthly basis. So I really need to up my game in getting my videos out on a timely manner so you can get some ideas on how to put the card together. And here you go. I'm just going to add some middles to these are the little tiny bits. You can put gems as well to the center of the flowers. And I think in some of them I do use gems, but here I decided to show you how I use the little die cuts that come, the die that comes with it as well in the set. And some of it I use gems. I like the way this turned out. I'm really partial to grays and pinks. If you see this video, I do use quite a lot of grays and pinks, and the green goes so well with it as well. You can add an additional sentiment to it, but I decided to just leave it as hello. And here I've done some ink blending, 4 different distress inks, and I'm going to die cut the H and the ELLO on it as well. So you get a gradation of the same colors. This is just another way to get a different look of the same die from the same small die of the month. After die cutting it, I also die cut it with some scrap white card, and I back it because I like to back these dies or these die cuts with another layer so it's a little bit more sturdy. So there you go. Then it's easy enough to place it onto the card front and do the decoration that's required. For the background, I use the embossing folder of the month. So it's the Hard Swag 2D embossing folder. But rather than use the embossed side, I'm going to use the debossed side. And per usual, I place the debossed side onto the front of the card front, which is larger, the debossed panel, and then I just cut the excess. So it's easy enough to do. Sometimes these panels or these die cuts that you have, I could have done the H with the LO without any additional die cuts or anything. I could have just left it as is and it still would have looked nice. But because I've got the background or that I've die cut with some gradation of distress inks, I decide to leave all of the die cuts in white. So it's not too many colors being introduced. So I like the idea that I can use the white and the background, it still looks really pretty. For the ELLO, I want to make sure I place it in the same width of the H. So I use my T ruler to make sure I get it in the right width. So it's right exactly below the H, and it makes it for easier if you start with the E and the O and then you place the 2 L's in the middle. So you get the right width of the alphabets below the big H. So it's easy enough to put together, and I've just put all the die cuts in white, and I like that. I like the fact that because the die cuts, the hello is quite colorful, I keep the rest of it quite plain with white, and I like that white on white look. Let me know what you think of this card. This is, I think, my favorite of the small die of the month. Then I make the next one and I like that as well, so sometimes it's hard to tell. So what I've done is I've cut all of the die cuts in white, and I'm just coloring it, just using my blending brush and my inks and just adding additional color, just a little bit, not too much, just to give it a little bit of a hint of a color at the base of the die cuts. What I'm trying to show you here is different ways that you can use the same die and yet create different looks. All you need to do is everyone's got lots of inks, so you don't need to have many different colored cardstock. You can create your own colored cardstock with the inks that you have. You just need to have white cardstock, and this is about 300 GSM white cardstock, because when you're doing inking, you want to make sure that you've got a good solid cardstock to do inking. Here I'm using distress ink, and I'm going to use just partially color the ELLO. I don't want a whole load of color on it. And then the H, I'm going to use 3 different shades of blue. So you got Faded Jeans, Price Ribbon, and Chipped Sapphire. These are the colors I'm going to use on the H. Another way to do this as well, if you don't want to add too many die cuts or you want to keep it quite simple, you can die cut the HELLO with patterned paper. Now, most pattern paper is not so thick. All you need to do is cut it with pattern paper and then back it with some sturdier cardstock. So that's another way to get more out of this die set. So many ways to do it. There's only so many ways I can show you. And here you go. I've just backed it up with some thin foam sheet to give it a little bit of dimension. It's again a mat of white on a white card base. So simplicity, but yet a little bit of pop of color here and there. Again, a different way to showcase the Blooming Hello small die set. And here are all the cards that I've created with the Blooming Hello die set. You saw me put this together Then this one here is where I've got the white on white with the gradation of the color of the hello. And here I've done some inking with white cardstock. And finally this one here, it's a black H hello with some pinks, various shades of pinks in the background of a light pink card base. Many more ways you can do it. So try it with some of your pattern paper and you'll see some different results. So next I'm going to be using the stitching die of the month. And here it's got a few elements here, but the frame it comes with is the main stitching element, and you've got some flowers that can do some stitching as well. But the theme here is to say I love you, basically. So you got love, L-O-V-E and Y-O-U, those alphabets there, but you can use different sentiments as well, and I'll show you how I use the sentiments from the Glimmer hot foil kit as well as the clear stamp of the month. Now here I've die cut it, but before I do any stitching, I'm going to back it with some sturdy white cardstock because it just makes the stitching a lot easier. And I tend to do that when I'm stitching, especially backgrounds. I find it easier to do the stitching. And you can just follow the etched lines on the stitching die to do your stitching. And here you've got the little flower that you can attach onto that little cluster there. And I'll show you. You've got a plain one as well as the one with the stitching holes. You can use either. And here I tend to double up all the alphabets here. So I've got love here, tiny. It's a bit fiddly. So the L-O-V-E, I just double up the love and U. So it's going to be quite sturdy to put onto the card front later on. So here I'm going to start stitching with some Luca S thread. Now Luca S is pretty much like DMC thread, but it's less expensive and it's got 6 strands. Now I'm going to use 3 strands per any multi-strand thread. When you remove the strands, you separate the strands, do it one by one, because if you try to do all 3 together, you end up getting the thread knotted and you just waste it because it's very difficult to untangle it. So I'm going to remove the strands one by one and put the 3 strands together and use 3 strands to do the stitching. Now because this is a background panel that I'm going to do stitching, it's easy enough to do the stitching by just using some sellotape to attach the start of the thread behind the die cut panel, and then it's just following the edge lines and doing stitching. I'm using a size 24 tapestry needle and just stitch away so the holes are big enough to handle the 3 strands. You could use 6 strands just like that, but I find it a little bit snug and you might end up tearing the card. So you'll see I go sideways, I move sideways to save some thread. So you will see I go right, yeah, and then I go down and then I put it to the side again. So I'm not wasting thread that way. And then I just finish it off the same way by ending by putting some sellotape behind the card panel. So there's no wastage. So there's many ways to do stitching, but if you're a beginner, use cotton thread. I do use some metallic thread later on, but metallic thread is more for experienced stitches, if you like. Now here I'm going to, because there's such a tiny die cut, I'm not going to use sellotape. I'm just going to trap the thread behind the subsequent stitches. So you put the thread slightly longer behind and then you just stitch over it as you go around the flower. I've done this method a few times here. So when this die cut is very tiny when you're stitching, it's a little bit fiddly, so you just need to find a way that works for you. And I find not using any adhesive but just trapping the thread as you stitch through is easier. And again, I just put the needle through the stitches behind to just secure the end of the thread. And then I put it onto that cluster die cut, or you can use it separately as well. You don't have to use it with the die cut that's come with the cluster, but I did do that. So I'm just going to use some liquid glue and attach the flowers. So each cluster here has got 4 of those flowers. You can't really see. I decided to keep the stitching of the flowers more of a tone and tone. You know the stitching is there, but it's not popping up too much because I didn't want it to detract from the cluster as well as the background stitches. So now I just put some thin dimensional tape behind that stitched panel to place it onto the background. So the background here is the notched corners. Again, it comes with the set, and This time around, I'm putting it onto an A2 card to show you how you can put the LOVE in the corners. But for this card, I decided not to do it because I'm doing a shaped card. You can see me do a shaped card. So I'm going to do the shaped card that is going to be these notched corners. So I've got two panels that I've die cut already in white cardstock. I'm going to attach them together with some double-sided tape because I don't like it to warp. If I use some liquid glue, sometimes it warps. You could see the lines of this liquid glue and I didn't like that. So I tend to use double-sided tape. And now I'm going to score it. I'm going to score it using a scoring board. The reason I score it is because it's easier to open the card later on. So this is going to be the shape of the card. And all I do is I score it with a bone folder using a scoring board, and then I use some red line tape. So red line tape is quite a sturdy tape, so it can be attached to the top of the card. So there you go, nice and easy and sturdy. Now that the structure of the card has been put together, it's a matter of just finishing the decoration on the front. I insert the oval that's die cut as well with some slightly thicker dimensional tape, so it's slightly higher than the stitch panel, and then I adhere the cluster as well as the alphabets love you. I can put a different sentiment in my subsequent cards. I'll show you how I use different sentiments, and all I'm going to do is just adhere them with some liquid glue. I decided to put both clusters in because there's space for it. Initially, I was going to put one cluster in. Then I decided to put both clusters in by just moving it slightly to the edge of the oval. And then I'm going to nicely and make sure I have the sentiments nicely spaced out. To get the sentiments spaced out, I'll start with a U because that's got 3 alphabets and it's slightly bigger. So I'll start with the middle alphabet, which is the O, and then I can space out the Y and the U on the other side, and then space out the LOVE at the top. It's all about seeing how you can centralize it. I mean, you can measure it, put marks with pencils, etc. But I just kind of eyeball it. You can eyeball it when you just get one part of it done, and then you can get the other bits of the smaller alphabets, eyeball it again. So it's just about trying to see how you get it all together. And I find using a liquid glue easier because liquid glue gives you time to move the alphabets around. And then I just add some tiny gems to the center of the flowers using liquid glue and of course my Crystal Katana picker tool. Without that picker tool, it's going to be so hard to put all these tiny elements together. And then the next one here, I've got a dark panel here, black, and I've backed it up with another black panel as well, so it's slightly thicker, and I'm using the metallic thread, the diamante, to do some coloring. In this panel here, I've done some ink blending before die cutting. So I wanted to keep the colors quite simple, so I just used some gold and some various shades of teal, and I'm just going to adhere the panel onto the front of an A2 card. An A2 card measures 4¼ inches by 5½ inches, and then I will put that LOVE, those alphabets, which I've already layered. I think I've got 2 or 3 layers of the alphabet, and I'm going to put it in the corner of each corner. So I've got LOVE. You can put anything. You can put flowers. You can even leave it blank. So I show you different ways of how I fill in the corners, the notched corners. And here the sentiment here is forever yours. I've layered it as well. It's from the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit of the month, which I have done some hot foiling, I think, which was a matte gold that I use here. So I kept it really simple with few colors without putting too many colors in it to confuse it. I like how this card turned out. And the next card here, I used some metallic silver card for the background because I wanted to have the slight silver in the corner, in the border, if you like. And I did debate whether I should leave the oval in the middle as silver, but I decided to put that panel here. But rather than fitting it, I flipped the oval around so the darker part is at the top. So there's a little bit of contrast. And here I put the flowers in the corners. But before I attach the oval, I'm going to see whether the distress ink has dried. And to do that, I just sprinkle some clear embossing powder on it to see whether it's dry. And it's dry. So what I'm going to do now is going to stamp the sentiment from the clear stamp of the month. I stamp it with some Versamark clear embossing ink because I'm going to sprinkle some white embossing powder, super fine white embossing powder, and melt it with a heat tool. But before that, I put some anti-static powder on the card before I do the stamping, and the anti-static powder will stop the embossing powder from going astray. But sometimes it still does go astray anyway, but you can just remove it with a dry paintbrush. So I'm just sprinkling some super fine white embossing powder here, then removing the little bit of strays with a dry paintbrush before I will melt the embossing powder with my dual powered heat tool from Wow. So there's many ways to do this. So here what I also do is I'm going to just attach it the other way around. So you've got the darker bit at the top, and I've got slightly thicker dimensional tape, and I will attach the flowers. And these flowers are from the small die of the month, which I've just die cut with white card. I just wanted to keep the colors simple. So these flowers from the small die of the month, you saw me use it earlier. It's from the Blooming Hello die set, and I just attach it. So it's really a few colors here, but I like the simplicity of this card and how it's turned out. I've noticed the card with the white die cuts is what I end up going towards. Here I've done the stitching with some variegated thread. I think it's 4514 DMC thread. And for the middle panel, I've just taken a color. So one of the colors in the variegated thread is teal. So I've just taken that and I've done some stamping, but I've also used a coordinating die to die cut it, layered it, and I'm placing it back in there. And I'm going to put a cluster, but rather than do any stitching, what I do is I die cut the stitching flower in a lighter lilac and the solid flower with a darker purple, and I'm just going to place that onto the cluster which I've die cut with a slightly lighter teal. So no stitching here. What I end up doing is once I've adhered all the flowers onto it, I'm going to use tiny gems to put it onto the little stitching holes on the flower. You could leave it as is. You could really leave it as is because it looks pretty as it is. But because I've got little tiny gems, I decided to add the tiny gems onto the flower just to give a little bit more interest, a little more shine. That XOXO stamp at the bottom of the oval is also from the clear stamp of the month. You'll see me use it a little bit more when I show you the large die of the month that I will be demonstrating how to do the stage towards the end of this video. Or you can go straight to it because I have bookmarked the timing for the video, this long video. You can go straight to the club kit that you're interested in if you want to check it out. So there you go. Very simple, a few colors. I like the cards where there are fewer colors. Sometimes you use many colors like the rainbow card, but sometimes using few colors, you focus the card. You focus the card on the few colors that you have. And there you go. This card is my favorite, the one with the white die cuts. Oh, this one too, actually. So I actually like all the cards that I've done here, the simplicity of it. Obviously, there's more ways you can use this, but I thought I'll show you 4 different cards with this. And the next card I'm going to show you is the final die, a final club kit, which is the large die of the month called Monster Love Pop. This is all about creating the stage, assembling a couple of monsters, and you got a couple of sentiments as well. That is the gist of the large die of the month. But I do show you how I assemble the stage. So I do show that twice. One with the tabs that I use, the colored card, and one with the acetate. Now, I don't have to show you twice, but I must say, putting this stage together takes a little bit of practice. The monsters that I'm showing you here, they are easy to put together. You just need to choose the color. But the stage takes a little bit of practice, and I must say, when I show you, by the time I show you the second one, I've done 3 of the stages and I get really good at it. So it does take a little bit of practice. And I also think it's worth investing the time to get to know how to do this pop-up, because it's kind of cute to put that in your cards and you can adhere anything in the pop-up. So I'll show you some examples, but I do extras because I know I'm going to use it in future cards, and I can put different pop-ups whenever I want to, and I can just insert it into the card. So here are all the die cuts that I've done. And finally, you've got some die cuts this is to arrange or decorate the pop-up. So you've got the heart shape here, which I've die cut with some glittery card. And then you've got the 3 little decorative rectangle and a couple of squares. And this is ideal to stamp the little sentiments from the clear stamp of the month, which is the XOXO, the love and be mine heart shape, and also a couple of heart shapes together at the bottom. So you can use that with all of these tiny little squares. So really ideal to decorate the pop-up, as well as you can put it onto a card as well. So I'll show you both and you can figure out how you want to use it. And finally, there's a couple of sentiments here. You've got a decorative rectangle border which says crazy for you, and another sentiment that just says be mine, which I end up putting into the stage. So this is all of the elements of the large die of the month, and I show you one by one how I put it together. I start off by showing you how I put the stage together, because to me this is the hardest part. But once you master this, honestly, it's going to be so easy, and it's so cute, so adorable to put together. So now after I die cut, so you die cut 2 of the stage bit and 2 of the side panels, and then the rest of it you just use the die that comes with it. So firstly, fold it according to all the perforated lines for both sides. So when you're doing it, you're repeating on both of the elements. You'll see me do that, so it's kind of easy to follow once you get the hang of it. And for the rectangle with the edge lines, you fold that as well. Just follow the edge lines, and once you've done the initial folding, it'll be easier to glue it together. And when I glue it, I use a liquid glue to put the gluing together. Don't use double-sided tape. So the liquid glue that I use is the art glitter glue, and it dries clear. But try not to put too much glue, because then it takes too long to dry, and it also will saturate the card and might make it warp. So when you use the liquid glue to adhere the parts together, just try to be quite sparing. So the first thing you're doing is you're folding it. You're folding it, that little V there, you're just folding it together, and you're going to just press it forward. There you go. So you've done that, and then you're taking the tab, not the folded bit, but the underside of the other side, very sparingly putting some glue on the tab and putting it just below that perforated line, like so. Just follow that, and you'll repeat it on the other side. Just press your finger a little bit longer there if you need to make sure it's pressed down properly. So this is not going to be a rush. You need to make sure at each step when you adhere and add the liquid glue, you wait for it to dry. So take your time. So the tab there, now you're going to just apply some glue on that folded tab. Again, sparingly, no point putting too much glue. So having a nozzle like this and applying just a tiny bit of glue, and then you're going to fold it at the second tab. So just fold it over and just hold it. Fold it over and hold it, because you're waiting for the glue to attach properly. So if you apply a little bit, then it glues up quickly. It dries up, the glue would attach quickly. Now you've got the makings of the inner stage, so you can already see it being put together. So if these two parts will come together, and you've got that circular stage. So the next step now is to adhere the side panel. So you will put it on, flatten it out, and you're going to adhere the side panel to that little tab. So you're going to apply some glue, again sparingly, to that little tab. Remember, when you take the side panel, the tiny part of the tab, so the smaller fold is on the left side, and adhere the middle of that square panel of the side panel onto that tab as I'm showing you here. So don't put too much glue. Make sure you press it down so it attaches well, and you will repeat on the other side as well. So by the time you do this, by the time you do the second or third stage, you will know exactly the steps to do. It does take practice. So if you need to, watch this a few times, and then you surely can do it. It's worth investing the time for future pop-ups that you want to do. And the next stage here is to just make sure that you're going to glue down that tiny panel into the side panel. So just fold it down. So yes, you're just going to fold that down into the side panel, and make sure you hold it until the glue attaches properly. So you're pretty much done already with regards to the making of the stage. So just press that down. So it's important at this stage that you really press it down. I am pressing it down for at least a minute, but I'm not showing that in the video. And now you're going to put those two sides together. Again, put the glue only at the bottom of that panel there because you want it to be available to insert the tabs at the top of the stage. So only at the bottom, align them together and press both parts together. Hold it. If you can't hold it, put a bulldog clip or something and make sure it stays together for a little while and it's properly attached before you do the next step. The next step is really just adhering that small tab inside. Turn it inside, yes. Put that little bit of liquid glue, turn it inside and just press it. Press that side panel together and repeat on the other side. So make sure the one part is properly attached before you do the next side. And here you've pretty much got the stage done. And the next stage is ready to attach the tabs, but make sure this is properly glued down. The glue is dry before you go to the next stage. So before you put the tabs in, push it up and down a few times so you make sure the stage can be flattened. So I would push it up and down and make sure you get that flexibility in that card with all the glue in place. So later on when you want to put it into a card, when you're sending it to a friend, it's nice and easy and that pop-up will stand beautifully. So there you go. Now I'm going to put the tabs in. So these tabs are easy enough. So you got two smaller tabs on the sides and the longer tab will go in the middle. You don't have to use all the tabs. You can use however many you want. But the second time I show you how to do this, I will use acetate in the tabs. So if you use acetate in the tabs, then you will see the elements that you stick on the stage that is slightly floating. So it's really up to you. I really don't think it's much of a difference, but the future ones I do, because I had some acetate to hand, I did do the rest of it with acetate because I thought it looked nice as well. So here you got to do it patiently one by one. Make sure the glue dries for each tab before you put the next step. So there you go. You can see you don't have to put the middle tab if you're not going to use it. But I'm putting all three tabs here because I do use it. But I also want to show you how you can insert all three tabs. So this is why you don't put the glue all the way to the top when you are adhering the two parts together, because you want to be able to insert the tab, but also you want it to be able to fold flat and you want that stage to be flexible. So make sure it's all dry. Leave it to dry before you try and move it again. So there you go. This is pretty much done, the stage. How adorable is this? Isn't this adorable? And now it's all left to do is decorate it. Before any decoration, I'm going to show you how I assemble these monsters. So I've die cut all the elements for the first monster and I'm just going to put that together. Just the eyes, just put the glue on the side of it. It's actually quite easy to put these things together. It does look like there are so many little tiny elements, but actually it's pretty easy. But if you've been doing Spellbinders kits, you will see there are elements of it that are quite similar. For example, the teeth and the hands, it's similar concepts that you can grasp quite quickly, and it's easy to make sense on how to put them together. And as I say with Spellbinders Club Kits, they all come as a theme, which is great. And you've got sentiments on the three of it. You've got sentiments in the Better Press of the month, in the sentiments with the Glimmer kit, as well as the clear stamp. So you can use the sentiments in all of the other club kits as well, because they work so well. They're so interchangeable because it comes as a theme. And therefore, all you need to do in some of these is really think of the color scheme you want to do. I've gone with quite a few bit pinks here because of the love theme, I suppose. So I've gone with pinks quite a bit here. And I like this particular pink. It's not too in your face, but it's more of a peachy pink. And I like the way it is quite cute. It's not a scary monster. It's not a Halloween monster we're going here. It's a cute monster that's going to say I'm crazy for you. And this is the second monster. I've used similar colors here. Again, adhering this monster together is quite easy. If you notice, both the monsters are smiling gleefully and just adding some sharp teeth there to show some funny grins, if you like, rather than a malicious grin. So you can put both monsters on the stage or you can put it in a card. I only end up making one card with this club kit because I just wanted to show you that what you can do. I'm sure the card bit you can figure it out, but I did spend more time showing about how to put the stage together. That's why I show the putting of the stage together. I kind of wanted to show it again because I really got the hang of making it more confidently after making my third stage. I did make quite a few of them and I thought I'd show you again. So in case the first time you're not too sure. Here's a couple of different legs here. I decided to use the longer legs. So there's an option here. So I decided to use one of it here, and I kept the color scheme. So you've got a pink, red, black, and white. And I've used that for both of the monsters just to keep the color scheme simple and focus on the assembly of the cute little monsters. And now to decorate the stage. So I'm using acrylic blocks here. I haven't used acrylic blocks in a long time, but I'm using acrylic blocks here just to stamp those tiny stems on those decorative squares and the rectangle so that I can adhere that to the side panel of the stage. I'm just using black ink here and just stamping them. I do generally like to do my stamping with a stamping platform, but since I already die cut the squares and the rectangle, I decided to just give it a go. And the bee mine, I wanted to stamp it with red. So I tried to get the same red as the horns, but I'm just got a red. I think it still goes because the color theme still can be maintained that way. So I'm just going to adhere these little panels to the side panel of the stage with some liquid glue. Some simple, I didn't think whether I'm going to pop it up with some dimensional tape, but that's the whole idea. I wanted the stage to be flat so that I can put it in the card if I want to send it, and putting some liquid glue and keeping it simple probably goes with that idea of it. So yeah, I really hope you find this tutorial on how to put this stage together helpful, but if you haven't got it yet, please continue watching this video because I do show you how I put that stage again together in a bit before the end of this video, so you get to see it again. I'm sorry the video is so long, but as I mentioned previously, I have bookmarked the club kits as to the time you can go and see which club kits you want, so it's easier for you. But I just wanted to put all of it together so that I can get it out as soon as possible, and yet it's still already the new month and I'm just getting it out. I still hope you find it helpful, and putting this stage together and the other club kits as well, you find it helpful. And here you go, the decoration of this stage is pretty much done. So if you got time, put these stages together, and I've got quite a few available so you can decorate them however you want. And here, while I put this crazy for you in this a decorative rectangle, when I make the card I do put a different color scheme because I felt it just didn't quite go, but just for demonstration purposes, this is how you put it together. You can use the crazy for you on its own, or you can even use that decorative rectangle and you can stamp your own sentiment in there. So it's really up to you how you want to put it together. So for the card, what I'm doing here is I'm doing some light ink blending with some Distress Ink Tattered Rose. So I'm blending it onto the white card very just at the bottom of it because I'm going to do some embossing. So I used the 2D embossing folder, but before that I spritzed some water so that the fibers will soften and will prevent the card from cracking when I put it through the embossing folder into the embossing machine, and I use the debossed side of it. Sometimes some of the embossing folders, I do like the debossed side better, and this seems to be it. I've adhered the monster with some dimensional tape, but I've also stamped these 3 little sentiments in blue card, and I'm just going to put it right at the top of the card and I adhere the monster and the sentiment. So a very simple assembly of this card. I kept the colors simple as well, just because I wanted to focus on the monster. There you go. Simple card. Now let's look at the inside. There's a sentiment that I'm going to put inside the card as well. So I decided to just use another acrylic block and just stamp the sentiment inside because I think it's kind of cute. It goes with the sentiment of monsters on the front of the card. So here I'm showing you the stage again, but I'm going to show you a little bit faster, and I hope not to explain too much, but if you see, the steps are pretty straightforward. I hope by the time you're looking at this, you are quite proficient with it as well, so I thought it's worth showing this stage again. And I also wanted to show off I can do it better now, so hopefully that helps you with the assembly of the stage. I really hope you find this video useful, and I'm sorry it's so long. Let me know what you think of a longer video with timestamp as to which club kits you can get to as quickly as possible. I'd really like to hear your views on it. With any product you use, and crafting products are no exception, and neither are the Spellbinders Club Kits, the more often you use it, the more proficient you get in using it, and the more ideas you get in using it. As I was doing this, I was thinking I can use multiple colored cards to do the stage. So maybe I can have the side panel of the stage with a different color, and the other bits a different color, different hues of the same color. So the more I do these stages, the more ideas I'll get. And I think Josie from Spellbinders was the creator of this die set. She did say there might be other elements that will be produced later on in the year in 2025 that can be used to decorate the stage. So I am holding out to seeing what's being introduced, or what I have in my craft stash that I can use to decorate this stage. You can use flowers, you can use various sentiments, various different characters. It doesn't have to be the monsters. So it's up to you. Your imagination is the limit of how you decorate this stage. So here I'm just showing you how easy you can do this once you get the hang of putting them together. And there you go. It's almost time to adhere the stage together. And then you just need to put the tabs. As you can see, the tabs on the, probably you can't see, but I have cut the tabs in acetate on the top left hand side of the screen, and those tabs will be inserted. And I decorate this stage slightly differently without showing every single detail because it's self-explanatory. All the products I've used are listed in the description below. Now this, by the time you watch this video, it's going to be probably a past kit because it's going to be January already. But there are additional kits available. Not all the kits are not available, but if you want to make sure you get the Spellbinders Club Kits, remember Spellbinders Club Kits are available to be ordered from the 6th to the 27th of every month. But if you want a pass kit, do check out their pass kit shops as well. So I will put the link in when the link is available for the December pass kits. They don't put it immediately, maybe 2 or 3 days into the next month. There'll be a kit, but I will update the kit in this video, or the link in this video, for past kits, so you can look to get this. I think getting this stage is probably worth getting this large die of the month from December 2024. And here I'm just attaching or adhering the tabs in acetate. Again, because acetate is a non-porous item, so you need to make sure the glue dries. Put glue sparingly. Make sure it dries before you put the next tab in. And as I said, you don't have to put all the tabs in. You just put what you need. So I'm really pressing it here before I put the middle tab in, just to make sure I don't move it along. But once you get these done, honestly, it's easy to decorate it. So here, this tab here, there you go. So it's pretty much done here. I hope you will give yourself a chance. Don't give up and be overwhelmed by the many elements and steps to put the stage together. Break it down, do it step by step, and give it a go. You will enjoy it, and it feels really good once you've done it, and you can have spares of it available so you can decorate it later on. There you go. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think of the video, of the cards that I've created, and as usual, good or bad, I want to hear it. Here are all the stages that I ended up creating. I don't decorate all of them because I'm keeping some of them as spares, because I want to see how I can use them going forward with various ideas that will come along the way. So this one here, I'm just putting a glittery heart as well, but I decided to use the flower from the small die of the month, but also the sentiments from the clear stamp of the month. And I do have an acetate that the heart shape that I've die cut in acetate, that I will adhere the flower as well as the sentiment to put in the middle tab on the stage. Just trying out something different. Not sure whether it really turns out the way I want it to, but if I don't try, I don't know. So I think it's worth decorating this stage with whatever items you have and see whether it works for you. I do end up using red line tape rather than glue for that acetate heart. And here are the items that I've created with the large die of the month. This decorated stage, and this other one here which you saw me put together, and finally the card. These are all the items that I've created with the large die of the month. You could obviously create so many more different cards with a large die of the month, with the sentiments that come with the clear stamp of the month as well. I really hope you've enjoyed the video. You found lots of ideas and given you a lot of inspiration. Here are close-up pictures of all the cards that I've created. Do check out the links in the description below for the products that I've used, as well as the links to the other videos that I've done. And do remember to press the subscribe button and the notification bell so you're alerted when I have more Spellbinders videos that I will release, because I will be doing all the Spellbinders Club Kits in 2025 for all the monthly Club Kits, as well as some of that regular releases that they have on a monthly basis. If you're still watching the video, thank you so much for putting up with this long video. Have a great new year when it comes. Continue crafting. Enjoy crafting. I find crafting very therapeutic, and I really hope I find the time to get my videos out on a timely basis going forward in 2025. And I really hope you enjoy the future subscription videos as well as the regular releases. Happy crafting, and I'll catch you at my next video. Do take care.